Okay. So how did you meet Dad?
Um, Bill, my husband, um, lived in a town called Hudson outside of Cleveland. It happened that a classmate of mine, Kay Weidenthal, it's Kay Boyd now, um, lived in Hudson too. And she knew Bill from Hudson. Kay's father was Dr. Weidenthal, so everybody went to that doctor. It's a small town. So she had a party when we were like in middle school, or junior high as they called it then. And she invited a whole bunch of gals and guys, and I was invited and he was invited, and that's how I met him. And then skip along.
I was going to say, because you just met him at the party and then he stayed in Hudson and you went back to Cleveland.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And but he hung around with 3 other guys, Bob Robertson, Dick Weeks, and Doug Hawkins. They were a foursome, and they all lived in Cleveland Heights and University Heights, down where I lived. So I met Doug, and he and I got along real well, and I started dating him. And then we went together about a year. We broke up. He was going to go to college and stuff, and long story, his parents didn't like him to have a steady girlfriend, and off that broke up. And about 3 weeks later, I got a call from Bill Whittle, and he said, "Hey, how would you like to go out to a movie and and have something to eat?" I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Why didn't you call me sooner?" He says, "You don't do that to your buddy.
Oh.
You wait till you make sure your buddy isn't going to date that girl anymore." He said, "I don't break anything up." So that's how we met.
So did he tell you that he wanted to call you even before Doug did?
Yes.
Okay.
But he wouldn't interfere. So, and we just started dating, and he has sometimes, it doesn't always show, but he has kind of like off the wall British type humor. Lots of times, which really can be funny. And it was good company. We did what kids did then. We had went to the movies and went out and ate French fries and hamburgers and
Sure.
milkshakes and never put on a pound. So that's how I met him. And we just started dating, and I had another guy I dated that was from a school called Case School, and dated him too. And I don't know, I know what happened. He was Catholic, and his parents said he couldn't go out with me anymore because I wasn't Catholic. Like a good Catholic boy, he didn't go out with me anymore. So then I just started going with your dad. And I forget where we were. So we were driving in the car one day, and in your dad's usual way, he said, "You think you'd marry me?" And I said, "What?" He said, "Do you think you'd marry me?" And I said, "Is that a proposal?" He said, "Well, I don't know. I'm asking a question."
Okay.
So I said, "Well, yeah, I guess so." And then, a couple of days later, we were going out and around. He said, "Oh, I got to stop at Macon. I got to pick something up." I said, "Okay." So he said, "Just stay in the car." So I stayed in the car. And he went into Maze, and he came back with a package. And he says, "Here." And he gives me the package. I opened it up, and there's a wedding ring and an engagement ring.
So he's not much of a romantic in that regard.
No. But, so that's how it all started. And then I started dating him in April
Of what year?
of, when we were married, 51.
Wow. Very short.
And then in August, he wanted to get engaged. And then in the Korean War was coming to a head, so he wanted to get married because he was afraid he was going to get drafted, which of course he did. And so that, you know, so we were married in next November.
So you really only dated him from April to November.
But we knew each other for a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm sure Kay and others had parties along the line.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Yeah.
We went a lot of places together. And where I went to high school, they had a dance. They had proms. It was all girls' school. We still had proms. But they had dance cards where you had to sign up, you know, for partners.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to go around and trade to get back the Bill Whittle ones. I'll trade you this guy for that one right there, Bill Whittle. So my dance card was all full of Bill Whittles.
Oh, that's funny.
So, and he dearly loved my mother.
Mm-hmm.
I'd come back home, and there he and 2 or 3 of his buddies would be sitting in the kitchen eating fresh chocolate chip cookies that she'd made for them. And they'd be playing cards and stuff, you know. He'd go to visit my mother when I wasn't even home.
So I know this doesn't have to do with Dad, but so did Mary meet Bob because of Dad?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
That's how they met.
Interesting.
So
it was not the most romantic proposal. He was very functional.
yes, well, he's the engineer.
Yes, very functional
He's
in
not-
what he was doing.
I used to always say he would never bring me red roses. You know, he'd bring me some, like one Christmas they gave me a new broom. And he put a red bow on it and he said, here's your new mode of transportation.
Oh, jeez.
I
Wow.
was just kidding, but
But like you were telling me earlier, he also came in one day and said, I bought you something, and it was a house.
yes, oh yeah. Or a car.
Or a car.
once.
Yeah.
Thought
So.
you needed a car. I want your car. You know, never small things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But, you know, poor guy, you know. We were teenagers, but we survived.
Yep. Because you guys were just shy. You got married like 2 weeks before you turned 20.
Yep.
Wow.
And then he was gone for 2 years.
Right.
You
Right.
know.
Right.
Yeah.
Amazing. Anything else?
Well, that's how I met him.
And that's, yeah. But you just decided to marry him because he asked you,
Yeah.
and you liked his humor.
Yeah. Well, and back in the 40s and 50s, you married somebody, you expected a house with green grass, 2.5 children, and a dog.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're expected to do.
That's what your purpose was.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And they said you went to college to meet the mister of your life. You weren't thinking about careers.
Well, you were actually in college, weren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was going to Mather. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
So that was probably all functional too in relationship to him too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Supposed to get married, have kids,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera.
I mean,
So when did you become feminized?
feminized?
You know, like a feminist? Because you started working in a man's world
Oh.
and not doing the 50s thing anymore.
No, they said in 4th grade I was feisty. And I sure was feisty. Liberty Mutual hired me as an inside sales rep, customer service type.
Mm-hmm.
And I was selling more business off the desk than the guys out in the field. And I said, I want that job. And they told me it wasn't a woman's job. Well, don't tell me that, because then I'm going to show you.
So I guess the reason I'm asking is because it sounds like you decided to get married because that's what you did in the 50s.
Yes.
But then you became very much not that person throughout the marriage. Was there ever a problem between you and Dad because of that?
No, not really. The only thing he didn't like was me traveling, but that was part of my job.
Mm-hmm.
He felt neglected.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to emphasize that I wasn't neglecting it. It was my job
Mm-hmm.
to have to travel.
Well, and that played out a lot as he aged.
Well, yeah, but then when I'd go up the Central Coast, I'd take him with me, and he'd go fishing, and he loved that.
Mm-hmm.
And he loved that he didn't have to pay for the room when we had $35 a day for food and stuff, you know.
Well, and then I remember too when you flew back from New Hampshire because he couldn't handle being home alone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So interesting. Well, that diverges from the topic at hand.
Yeah,
but...
well, yeah, you know, well, like a therapist, one of the therapists once, and I was talking about him and his background and what he'd survived through and what he hadn't survived through. And I said to her, I said, I think I understand his personality and what happened to him. And she said, well, you really do love him, don't you? I said, yes, I do. I said, because inside there is the man I originally knew, which you saw at Southwoods,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the sweet guy.
Right.
I said, he could not handle stress at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it went back to his
Upbringing.
upbringing, you know, when you're thrown down the basement stairs and stuff, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but that was not the real person. There was a very sweet individual in there that only came out when his stress was gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
when he didn't have that anymore.
Responsibilities and
Yeah,
demands and yeah.
but we never went without. We always had a house. We always had food. He always worked. He always did, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Building.
yeah, but you know, they say all creative geniuses are a little bit off mentally.
Tortured souls.
Yes, they
Yeah.
really are.
Mm-hmm.
You look at all of them back through history. They're, you know,
Yeah.
and he, you know, like Aunt Jane said when she visited here last, crying that her mother said she never wanted children. Can you imagine telling your kids that? I didn't want you.
Lovely.
Even as an adult, she still had such hurt that it made her cry.
Mm-hmm. At 85 years old or
Yeah.
whatever. Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine that.
Yeah.
I always wanted kids, though.
Well, you got us.
Yeah, I only got two of you now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, you know. I mean, when you have 3 in 5 years, it's a little tough. And I remember one time standing in the living room on Elmwood, all this confusion. I said, "You went to college for this?" All these kids running around, you know.
Choices made.
But you know, I managed to have a career,
Yep.
and I always said part of why I went to work was we were married so young that the need for money came before the maximum earning years, you know.
Right. Right.
So,
You could only stay home with us for so long and then needed to.
well, there's things that I wanted for you,
Mm-hmm.
you know, wanted for you to have. Education was always primary,
Yep. You did that well.
and, you know,
We're really edumacated.
you're
Edumacated.
Edumacated. Well, Grandma used to always say, what you put in a child's head never comes, you know,
Yeah.
never comes out, it stays. And Miss Lake at Laurel used to say, you educate a woman, you educate a family.
Yep. Yep. I agree.
And Laurel, you know, has that full engineering department and all that stuff now.
All the STEM stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.